Okay, I will call the City of Essex Junction Council meeting to order for February 11th. First item on the agenda is, are there any agenda additions or changes? Regina,
None from me.
council?
None around the table.
Okay. All right, no agenda to approve then. Public to be heard. Is there anybody in the room who would like a couple of minutes to say something to the council?
No hands are being raised.
Okay, let me just check online here. Anyone online? Not seeing any hands raised immediately there, so we'll move on to the public hearing on FY27 proposed general fund operating and capital budgets. Open the public hearing.
I am going to share my screen here. Okay. All right. So here we are at the official public hearing for the proposed FY27 general fund and capital budgets. We have talked about some of this information a number of times now. So I will move through this relatively quickly. What we have for the FY27 proposed budget is at about 12.9 million. That is about a 4% increase over our current FY26 year. What that translates to for an average household is a change of about $118, a 4.1% increase over the FY26 tax rate versus the FY27 tax rate. As we have been doing since budget day, we are also providing information on the very preliminary numbers of what the utility rates look like so that you can get an overall picture of what we're expecting to change. The utility rates will be finalized as we work through the enterprise budgets over the next couple of months. The City Council approves the utility rates via the enterprise budgets. Those budgets do not go to the voters. Okay, so overall changes in this budget. This budget was built on the council's direction of trying to get as close to 3% as possible and looking at it between 3 and 5%. We did some initial mock-ups and essentially what we have in front of you was in between that overall goal of 3 and 5%. The reasons why the budget has gone up are for the most part listed in this list here. This budget has a 4.25% salary and wage merit increase worked into it for staff. There are also a number of other smaller increases. There are some increases associated with changes in health insurance. So overall, the health insurance rates were better than we thought for calendar year 2026. So in the first half of FY27, this budget, we were able to lower those health insurance rates more so than what we have been seeing, which I think maybe was an 18% increase at some point in the last couple of years. So we were able to do that overall, but some of the individual adjustments of family size ends up readjusting those costs. We increased some of the services for this building now that we are renovated and back in it. And the assessor's budget went from 1.7 FTEs to 2 full-time staff. And as a reminder, the city has a new shared services agreement for assessing starting July 1 of 2026, which will be in place for 3 years. Also, the police department had some renegotiation of their contracts this past year, so you see those increases in this budget as well. A little bit more information here on those health insurance changes from FY26 to FY27. Overall, there are no new positions in this budget with the exception of that change in the assessing office from 1.7 to 2 full-time folks. And you can see at the bottom there, personnel costs, salary, and benefits is about 34% of the cost of the overall city budget. So efforts to try to reduce the general fund. We have continued, as we've been a city, we've continued to try to look at a variety of different contracts and get those aligned. So now we've got one cleaning contract for the city, and we will continue to look at those services as we go, including probably putting out another RFP for IT service provider. We have also, as we've been doing over the last couple of years, as it makes sense, some of the costs associated with EJRP program funds have shifted out of the general fund over to the program fund. As an example, the cleaning costs for Park Street School have moved over to program fund. Also this year, we took a pretty good look at all of the transfers, and really for the most part, what this means is transfers from the general fund to the capital planning side of things, and essentially we are putting those dollars away to save for the large infrastructure projects that we are expecting to come. So in this year, we looked at that now that we had a little bit more time with the lot funds and what that is starting to look like. So we were able to level fund the general fund capital transfer due to that local option tax. We kept the rolling stock transfer as it has been, so that has increased by 7%. We kept in the retirement fund transfer, and last year, or I should say rather, in this fiscal year's budget, FY26, we also added a transfer to try to help that unassigned fund balance. So we've been talking about this in the budget process over the last couple of years as well. The city has a policy in place that if and when we get to 15% of an unassigned fund balance, you can start to use some of those savings to work into your next year's budget. Prior to FY25, we were continuing to sit at about 7%, which was a scary low percentage. At the end of FY25, we were able to get that to 12%. So that is really great. And so we didn't put an additional $100,000 into the FY27 budget specifically for that purpose this year. So this is the breakdown of the expenses of the FY27 general fund budget. You can essentially see here that public safety is that biggest piece of the pie at 32%. That's fire, police, and rescue in there. Then 17% is general government, so this includes administration, legislative, clerk, finance, IT, and assessing. Then public works is at 13%. Then transfers and miscellaneous. So transfers is at 9%. That's basically that same kind of transfer concept of what I was just talking about. You see all of that in there. Recreation at 9%, the library at 8%, and then the other departments decreasing from there. Also in this budget, we have $30,000 to start to figure out what an economic development program looks like in FY27. So that's in addition there. At this scale, it still only shows up as 0%, but last year it really was nothing. Now it at least is 30,000. Okay, and then this is the revenues for FY27 as we expect them to be today. So as folks know, we are undergoing a reappraisal right now. Essentially what happens with the reappraisal is cost neutral in the sense that we are not going to collect any more money than we are expecting to collect to help with the expenses. But how it breaks down in this pie chart might look different. Right now, we're expecting that 76% of our revenues will come from residential properties, 10% from business properties, 8% is miscellaneous revenues. That won't change as the result of a reappraisal. That's really fees that come into the clerk's office, fees that come into the community development department. But then that 6% is specifically Global Foundries. So what might change with the reappraisal is what percentage of the pie global is, other business properties are, and what residential. Also, this is our proposed list of projects that we have in the capital project list for FY27. So there's a number of different items there, and some of these are on the smaller end, but will be very helpful to work through a couple of the policy projects that we have been working on, like the traffic calming measures, and starting to think through some of the other projects like the Veterans Memorial Park restoration. With these capital fund projects, I say every year, this is what we expect to happen. That doesn't mean it is exactly what is going to happen. Some of this depends on what the actual bid prices come back and whether we have saved enough or not, whether we can support the project through other ways. So sometimes these change, it can sometimes it can be better to think about the capital list as almost a 3-year list in terms of what might be happening in any given time. Then just as a reminder of folks, so we have the strategic plan process up and running, in development of this budget, the FY27 budget. It's the first full year of the cycle of how the strategic planning process is working. So that is exciting. Following annual meeting this year, we will then kick off the process again with a council retreat in the spring, and set some priorities and be able to move through the process. So next steps. So after tonight's public hearing, you have a regular agenda item on your business items to talk about the budget and let us know if you want any changes. Following tonight's meeting on February 25th, we will bring you the draft warning of the annual meeting ballot. So that's when you'll see everything that will be on the ballot, including the budget amount. And on March 11th is the final acceptance of that warning, and then we move forward towards annual meeting day on April 14th. We also have an informational hearing on March 23rd, which is when we will talk about the budget again and also all of the ballot items that night. That's it. I'm going to stop sharing.
Are there any questions from the council before I open it up to the public?
Not seeing anyone around the table at the moment.
Thank you, Marcus.
You're welcome.
Anyone in the room? Public comment on Regina's presentation?
Not seeing any hands in the air.
Online? Seeing any there? All right. Well, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing then.
So moved.
Wait a second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. All right. Thank you. Passes unanimously. All right. So we'll move on to item 6A, which is the discussion and consideration of the budget and the capital program budgets. Back at you, Regina.
So again, as these narratives come forward to you, you see the changes that you've got here over what you saw the last time we brought you the budget on January 28th. So we have added that 30,000 from economic development, and that county tax actually decreased even a little bit more in our favor, which is great. So overall, the change is 26,211. And there are some other minor changes in here as well that have not made a dollar amount change. Including, we added a note to the building maintenance fund that will have to do some chimney repairs here at 2 Lincoln in the spring. Nothing else from me at this point. If you folks have any other changes, now would be an excellent time to hear them. Because there really isn't too much time after tonight to be able to do that. And that's all I've got.
Council? Any questions? Looks good. Change.
I'm all set. Not seeing anything in the room.
Okay. There's there a motion? I don't think there's a motion on this one. Mine. Okay.
It'll be part of the final warning, so.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Cool. We can move on then. Let's go to 6B, which is rebranding, final design approval. And we have Ashley online.
Hi, everyone. You'll have to excuse me. I'm a little under the weather tonight, so if I cough a little bit, please excuse me. So tonight I'm bringing forward to you guys the rebranding committee's final logo design. We are proud of what we are bringing forward to you guys, and we're asking for your final approval. What you guys see in front of you is mainly unchanged. We've done a little bit of changes to some colors, but mostly it's similar to what you guys saw in the third round when back in December. Before we get into the actual looking at the logo though, I just want to go over a brief history of how we've gotten to this place so that we make sure that anybody who's just now tuning in to this presentation knows the work that we've put into this, because this has been a long process. So back in April, it's almost been a year, we got together the rebranding committee that consisted of myself, a city council member, a staff member, and then 5 community members. And I really want to brag on my committee. They've done an excellent job, and I'm so pleased with the experience that we got for this committee. 2 of them are designers themselves. Then they had people who had experience in marketing and consulting. So we had a broad range of experiences. And I think it really helped what we got to with our final design and helping us to choose the consulting group that we actually went with. So once we had our committee, we had a bunch of RFPs. We narrowed those down to a select few. We interviewed them, and then ultimately decided to go with Place Creative Company for this work. We immediately got in then to getting feedback from the community. We did surveys. We did Meet Me on Main. We had some great feedback from the community on that. And then from that feedback that we got from the community, Place did what's called a project brief. And that's what really they worked off of to develop the logo. And some of the goals that we had for this logo was we wanted it to reflect our progress and show we were a growing, diverse, and inclusive community. We wanted it to resonate with both a community with deep roots and forward momentum. We wanted it to be warm, energetic, thoughtful, welcoming, confident, and vibrant. And then we wanted it to convey connection, a place where people, paths, and ideas meet. And so with all that information that we got, Place came up with 7 brand identity options for us. We reviewed them and brought them to the council, and ultimately decided to move forward with option A. And then we went through 5 rounds of revisions. And these revisions, we looked at all different kinds of things, from the font to the color to changing the layout of this. And we really wanted to make sure that this logo worked across any format that we really wanted it to. We looked at like 1 color, 2 color. We looked at various sizes. If we shrunk it down really small, if we looked at it really big. We looked at different vertical and horizontal variations. And we wanted, again, like I said, it to really be something that I can use and the city can use throughout the city on any placement that we put it on. And so what we bring to you today, we really feel reflects that feedback that we got from the community. What also is something that we can use and be a good reflection of our community moving forward. And so let me share my screen now that I've done my spill. Okay. So like I said, whoop, going too fast. It's remained mainly unchanged since you saw it. The biggest changes that we did was we did a color check on the colors in the icon, and we ultimately decided to change them. In the original icon, the orange was in the smallest portion, and the committee, somebody pointed it out that it looked like a carrot, and then the rest of the committee, that's all we could see from then on. And so we decided to start playing with that. And so we decided that this had a better balance to it, where it went from the warm to the cool colors. And so we decided to move forward with this color. But what you guys saw, this down the bottom portion, the font, that did not change any from the previous version that you guys saw. So the other things that we started looking at was we started looking at, you guys have all seen this as well. We started looking at the color variations, 1 and 2 colors. We started looking at also, so these are the different variations of the logo right now. And then somebody had asked about the font. These are the fonts that are available for free to use, or for Adobe Font to use for free to use with commercial use, which we do have an Adobe subscription for. And then the other thing that we started looking at was sub-branding and horizontal logos, what this would look like in different variations. So we looked at this because we have, Brownell Library and EJRP, and the fire department do not want to change their logos, but we do have some departments that need a city logo as well, like the Public Works Department, Stormwater, the Water Resource Recovery Facility. All of them use our logo in various forms. And so we wanted to give them characteristics of their departments as well. And so we went with the circle icon with the text around it, because really when we put the full logo off to the side, it was too small and started losing some of the text and started losing some of the design with it being that small. And so we decided this was a natural fit. And actually Katie, who's on our committee and who's with us tonight, came up with this suggestion, and we had them to go look at it, and we moved forward with it as our sub-branding. And so the horizontal logos is not in this. We're still working on finagling that a little bit. That'll be something that we finalize in the style guide, which the next steps, if you guys approve this tonight, we will move forward with creating a style guide, the signage for the community, and then any templates that the city needs for our day-to-day use. And so I will go back to, this is a good variation of the logos. And if you have questions or comments, I'm happy to answer any comments or questions. Sorry.
Thanks, Ashley. Any questions or comments, council?
I know you got to build the style guide and do that work, but how soon after potential approval would you, could we potentially start to see this on vehicles or on flags or see it around the city?
Soon. So we have 1 round of revisions for the style guide. And then I'm pretty sure we have 2 rounds of revisions for all the other stuff. So the signs, the templates, that kind of thing. So we still have a little bit of work to do. But probably by, April, fingers crossed, nothing crazy happens in the style guide or anything like that where we have to go back and do major changes. It all depends on how much changes that we have. So if we have 1 change, place can turn that over really quickly. If we have something where we've got 10 to 20 changes that we need made, it might take them a little longer. But we usually have a 5-day window for changes to be decided upon by the committee, and then they work for 5 days. And so Like I said, they'll start as soon as if we give approval tonight, they'll start work on the rest of the style guide and the templates and the signage right now. And then we'll go from there.
How will the tagline appear? I mean, I saw you've got one lockup where we don't see the logo. We see the five corners kind of image muted behind where it all comes together. But I'm curious, is how it'll show. I guess how it'll show up with the logo in other ways.
Yeah, so that'll be the start of the style guide. A lot of that, like I said, we haven't gotten to yet, because that'll be all incorporated. We really wanted to make sure that the horizontal and the sub branding worked because that was our key critical point. But we haven't seen yet that's how that tagline works in yet. But it's on our list.
No, appreciate that. Any other questions?
Just want to say thanks to the committee for putting in some really good work. I really like it.
I want to give these people some big accolades too. It's like as the representative from the council, I am not. This isn't where I work, and so and Katie, you're online. Did I hear that right? And so
Yes, I am. Hello.
professional designers that are on the committee are exactly what we've always kind of wanted to have happen when we go looking for people. And Katie was a great example, and one of a few. And Ashley, when you said it's been almost a year, I kind of stopped and gave pause for a second because it's coming up on. But I really just wanted to give a big props to this committee, to these people that sat here and put the time and effort into it, and the ideas that came from it. Again, it's out of my comfort zone, but they very much knew exactly what they were looking at, the suggestions to make, how to make it better. And so I'm very grateful to have sat there, and I'm very grateful to these people that came forward to put the time and effort into it to get us to where we are today.
Brian, anything?
Thanks.
Yeah, just reiterate my thanks to everyone for the hard work.
I as well, and I look forward to the official launch of rebranding so we can have sweatshirts and t-shirts and hats and signs.
Mhm.
Thank you, Ashley. So there is a motion in the packet. Anybody?
In order to help Ashley get back to recovering, I would like to say that I move the city council approve the final brand identity design as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right, that is unanimous. Thanks, Ashley.
Thank you all.
Enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you.
All right, next up, 6C, which is a rec advisory committee brief to council. I think I heard Bridget was in the room. I don't know if she's the one doing the.
Here she comes.
I'm the one doing.
Okay.
Bridget, before you begin, I can't thank you enough for what a successful community dinner we had. That was really spectacular, and I know
Thanks.
you were the head person, the head cat wrangler, so thank you so much.
Yeah, it was a bit, but it worked out really well. We had over 300 people there, which was my
Fantastic.
goal and, or our goal, and it was great. And I thank Brian for contributing so much. That's really terrific.
Privately, for the record. I donated privately.
Privately, yes. Oh, my God. Sorry. So I'm Bridget Meyer. I live on Pleasant Street, and I am the chair of the Rec Advisory Committee. As most of you know, this is a reincarnation of a committee that existed since our recreation department was established back in the 70s. I could be wrong about that, but I think I'm right. And we disbanded when it looked like the merger was going to happen, either rec department or town city and town village, and had a little hiatus there, but we're back functioning, and it's amazing, and I love it. I served also as chair back in the day when dinosaurs roamed the earth. It's the same and different. So, and I'm thrilled to be a part of this again. So just to remind you of what our goals are, the Recreation Advisory Committee shall represent the best interests of the city and its residents by serving in an advisory capacity to EJRP in the development, maintenance, and stewardship of a comprehensive system of parks and recreation services. We also serve as the liaison between the community of Essex Junction and EJRP and review, recommend, and influence aspects of EJRP, including programs, parks, and facility needs. The Recreation Advisory Committee is wonderful. It really is. It's amazing. So they're fully engaged, thoughtful, and spans the age range from 15. We have 2 teenagers, one of whom keeps our minutes, and my age. I'm coming right up on 80. Some are parents of young children and some aren't. This diversity of experience fosters great discussion and keeps us focused on providing great, affordable programming and services for our community. We've met since last April and have spent the first year becoming acquainted with the EJRP staff, programs, and history. We've met and spoken with admin, programming staff, preschool staff, after-school care staff, older adults staff, and facility staff, all of whom described their roles at EJRP and provided the committee with a well-rounded overview of nearly everything EJRP does. In addition, there's summer. Summer is very, very busy for EJRP. I'm glad you're all sitting down because 20,000 people use our pool, Maple Street Pool, in the summer. And many take swimming lessons there. 425 young people take part in our camps, Maple Street Camp Star and the myriad summer sports, art, and drama camps. And fun fact, EJRP employs 150 during the summer, mostly teenagers, for all the summer programming. And at our last meeting, we met the budget and discussed it. Challenges, as I see them, are space. We need more. It's not a surprise to anyone. Time, that's an existential discussion that we'll save for another time. And staff retention, which is now in this current age, it's a concern. It's difficult and a concern. I look forward to our next year and heartily applaud EJRP for their continued enthusiasm and thoughtful attention to the recreational needs and wants of our Essex Junction community. And now, if you'll allow me to editorialize for just a minute, I'm prone to do this. So, this committee is, in all my years, I've been a part of so many committees, so many boards, all kinds, spanning everything. I was on the Howard Mental Health Board. I've done everything. This committee gives me so much joy, partly because it's how can we help you? Let's see what we can do, and yes. And I just love that. We move from idea to action in so many different ways, and I just enjoy it so much. It's really an incredible committee to serve on, and although I don't think we need any new members right now, we will, so those of you out in the public who are thinking about ways to contribute, this one is a really good one. And that's it from me.
Thank you, Bridget.
Sure.
Does anybody have any questions or comments for Bridget? Don't run away yet.
I'm sitting right here.
My only question is, and I really appreciate it, and I totally understand in standing up a committee, you have a lot of information to take in to familiarize every member with what's happening. So can you talk a little bit about, from an advisory position, what you've been talking about or what you may be planning to start talking about in order to provide that advice to Parks and Rec?
So for this first year, as I said, it's been informational. It's been catching up. It's been, for me anyway, it's been catching up. Programs have changed, we've added, and so it's been learning about the programs. One whole meeting, I think it was one whole meeting, we walked the park with the facilities crew, talked about the additions and what they want to do. And as we serve in an advisory capacity, right, we are there to discuss what EJRP is doing. We add our own comments in terms of what they're doing. But we've met since April. We meet every other month and have met since April. I look forward to the coming year as being more of a kind of, what are we seeing down the road? How do we fit into this, and what is our role? It's been, as I said, it's been pretty much informational. We met all the staff and they all wrote biographies, and
Wow.
this takes takes a lot of time, but it's so important, and I've learned so much, and I think the other committee members, and I think there are some that are at least attending via the internet, would say the same. I look forward to this coming year as being more, what do I want to say, a little bit more in depth in terms of how we contribute to this. But again, we're an advisory committee, so it's not like I say, we need to do, and they go, oh yeah, all right, we'll do that. There are lots of constraints, as you can well imagine, and we've talked about a lot of that, the space being one huge one. But I see the next year and going forward as being more, what do I want to say here? More back and forth. I guess that's what I'd say. So I'm sorry I can't answer your question, or if I did, I did, but that's how I see it.
No, it's fun. And
Okay.
so I'll follow up with this. Speaking, since you've been taking in all this information, and space obviously stands out as a major concern. And we've had many conversations around this. So from your particular point of view and taking this information in, what programs do you think are being most detrimented by not having the space available at this time?
Let's see. Brad would probably have a better handle on this than I do, but I certainly would see, tell me if I'm not correct, summer camps, those kinds of programming. We're really lucky now that Maple Street Art, Tina Logan has signed on, and a lot of the art happens there. That's great, and that's more of what we need. But summer camps come to mind. Brad will be able to fill you in a little bit more on population and what, you know, what we're waiting, what has waiting lists, and what's filling up and what has waiting lists. It's a constant weighing of what you're providing, you know. Are anybody coming to are people coming to the cheerleading camps? Are people coming to the field hockey camps? And what do you do about that? And how do you phase that in or out? And what are the current, and whoever knew that, for instance, I don't know what the biggest sport is now, but probably volleyball is a kind of a new one to me. Not new to any of you probably, but new to me. And it's big. It's huge, you know. So recreation, EJRP, has to answer that. Yeah. And so it's always looking at the trends, looking at what's happening, finding the people to teach that programming. But overall, I'd say probably summer camps is what I'd point to first.
No, I appreciate that, and we'll definitely have Brad talk about that.
Oh, yeah, he will.
But I wanted to get your third-party perspective on it, so I appreciate that. Thank
I
you.
have a lot of third-party perspective.
I'll leave it at that.
That's it for tonight.
Anybody else?
No, I'm good.
Amber?
No, okay. Thank you, Bridget. Don't go too far. There's lots more fun and excitement. Okay. All right, next up, 6D, we have Recreation and Parks Director, Department Head brief to Council with Program Director of the older adults. Sounds like that's a combination of Brad and Julie. It's a lot shorter to say than all that, so. Welcome, guys.
I'm going to go first, and I'm going to try to be brief. I think it's more valuable probably at this point that you spend more time with Julie and talking about senior programming. I think you're more familiar with a lot of this general stuff about EJRP. But wow, Bridget, the most concise, direct, amazing report. I hope you're feeling okay, but I don't even know how to follow that up. That was amazing. I didn't know that.
No.
I'm impressed. I'm very pleased. You have my report in front of you, and this is the standard department head report of 6 month, look back and look ahead. So I'm going to go through things as I often do, maybe too quickly, which Regina has reminded me, but I'll try not to go. But only because I do want to spend more time with Julie. So I want you to spend more time with Julie. It was interesting to look back at 6 months. We have a new preschool director after 16 years. She moved on, and Kristen is doing great. But I was just reflecting that there's been a lot of change, and especially in some of our higher director level positions. A new program director, a new licensed child care director. So some relatively significant changes for us in the last 6 months. All for great. People are doing great in new roles and stepping up, and so all of those things have been happening. Meet Me on Main, you're all familiar with, happened last fall as a directive from you all in your retreat last May. Some of these standard bearers for us, Pumpkin Palooza continues to attract over 3,500 people. Our winter stuff is the train hop, which was again very well received in the community. We've expanded kind of the roles of our program directors and program coordinators to be a bit more inclusive of all things. So Julie's involved in some of those things in train hop. And just introducing, I was even at last rec advisory meeting last week, people were talking about, we introduced the raffle to that, and we added the horse-drawn carriage to the park. And so just trying to do a couple of new things each year and kind of keep those standard bearer events fun and interesting, but still new and exciting for people. Letters to the North Pole, the Giving Tree. Julie, I'm going to put you on the spot about how much you dealt with the Giving Tree.
Yes, the Giving Tree, we served, I think, 38 families in the community, getting those from guidance counselors in the schools as well as Essex Peds. And so that was great. So we did a Amazon wish list this year, which was new for us. But there were a lot more items that were needed. Almost 100 items in total were purchased, and they were all purchased by people in the community, which was really great.
Nice. Winter lights in the park, you all are familiar with. The governance committee report and everything, and wrapped up that project. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but both myself and Alyssa Callan from our department served on, I just called it the Pay Equity Committee. It's a committee that included some members from the association and members from the administration and members of staff who are not part of the association, and Alyssa and I represented in that respect. The FY27 budget development, obviously, and youth and adult basketball has been up and running and ends next week. And so looking ahead, our summer camp and swim brochure is in the works. Mark has been working on that with the programs team to get that out in the coming weeks. We have the egg hunt. We have 65 8th graders headed to DC for April break, which we're always very excited about. We have a few smaller-ish projects going on at Maple Street inside the building, making some changes to the bathrooms and the locations of sinks and the locations of changing stalls and adding a storage room. So trying to make some improvements over there, smaller improvements on the internal to try and help deal with some of our space crunch issues. There's lots going on in the senior center. I told you this several weeks ago when we were here, or months ago when you were here budget time. It looks even more amazing now. The vestibule on the Pearl Street side is gone. The office in the back left corner is gone. Julie and I were just commenting about how much more open and bright it is already, even amidst the dust and debris. So we're excited about that, and Julie will talk more about it.
Is there just, sorry to interrupt, is there a potential maybe we can walk over there after the meeting tonight? Take a peek? Sure. Awesome, thank you.
We have the Memorial Day Parade, Maple Street Pool opening July 4th. Everybody knows, I think, about the $1 million plan for Cascade Park renovations that we have $500,000 from the LWCF federal grant, Land and Water Conservation Fund grant. And that's a matching grant, so the other funds are coming from our capital funds and some from our program fund to help balance all of that out. But new pickleball courts, new tennis courts, new basketball court, new playground. And depending on how far money stretches, there's plans for lights and bathrooms, but we'll see, we'll get the main infrastructure in first. And of course, Main Street Park will be coming online. That's always been an interesting evolution of a park that was kind of like in planning and development, and then really heavily involved in city council, and then manager's office, and never really with rec. So we've never really been a part of it, but we will be assuming ownership of it after everybody else's input. So
You're welcome.
yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
But that's fine. We're excited. We're happy about new parks, and we're happy to take that on. Everybody's prepared.
Next,
and
Stevens
so-
Park.
Yes, Stevens, yeah, is on the list.
Bridget's pretty good at watering the plants out.
Yeah, I think she's going to keep that going. I won't beat the dead horse other than to talk about space and facilities. And, I say that twofold, that obviously in this community, as in many communities in Vermont, schools are our recreation centers. That's just how it operates. And we're appreciative and value that partnership and relationship, and it's vital to the success of our community and serving the community's recreation needs. And but to not also recognize that schools have been placed under a lot of other constraints, especially since COVID. I mean, go back to COVID when all schools were shut down, which means all recreation centers were shut down. So that's when we really first realized, like, wow, we really don't have that much of our own space. But so we're very fortunate to be able to use the schools, but they certainly, there are fewer schools online. They're online for fewer hours of the day. There's fewer spaces that are available. And this community does continue to grow. We grow up and not out, but there's lots of permissions now to build lots more housing and have more people, and that only puts more demands and constraints on the recreation needs. People aren't coming here and expecting to, go somewhere else to recreate. They want to recreate here. And so I think that is, as Bridget talks about what's upcoming, I think that's what's upcoming for our community is facing those realities and what kind of facility needs. And, back to your question, Marcus, I could run through like the list of camps and things that we do this and that and move around, but I think it's more about like what we're not doing or even considering because we don't have the space. And so Bridget has lots of ideas, but she says, well, why don't you guys just do a family dance on a Saturday afternoon or evening? Great idea. What schools are available to do a family dance? The multipurpose room isn't large enough, so tell me what schools are available. I can tell you it's a very limited number of schools that are available on Saturday. During the winter, what schools are available and don't have winter sports in them? So all of a sudden, those options it's not there. And why don't you guys do a winter movie? Great. It's not going to work in our multipurpose room. It's not really big enough. Which schools are available and open on a Saturday? Very few. When is the musical happening that there's play practice and you can't use the stage and you can't use the auditorium? So we understand there's lots of competing interests, for school facilities. So I think it's more of the question for me, Marcus, of what is our program team not thinking of or even attempting, because we just don't have the space to try it and do it. So I think that's something that we're missing. But that's the extent. I did want to acknowledge Pat Lynch is here. He's on our Rec Advisory Council, so thanks for coming, Pat. And Mark Brislin's back there, who is our Assistant Director. Thanks for coming, Mark. And I didn't see if anybody else was online, but that's all I had. So I'm happy to take any questions, or we can just roll into Julie and then do a big group of questions, however you want to roll. Amber.
I have a really quick question, or what I hope will be a really quick question. I think I asked you at Budget Day about Meet Me on Main 2.0. And you said, let's talk about it when I'm in front of you. So any thoughts as to what the plan is?
No definitive plans. I think we do have Julie and Mark actually have drafted. We talked about some surveys going out to the community and businesses to try and get some feedback from them, and those will be coming out soon. But I think right now the plan, what our initial conversations were certainly that we liked the timeline of the fall-ish kind of event season for the Meet Me on Main series. We'd also have talked loosely about trying to maybe do some of those like as one-offs throughout the year. As you know, even we've talked about winter, we get into plowing issues and snow and whether or not public works guys can do it in the vehicles. And so there's some logistical challenges, but I think, you know, doing that a couple of other times of year as one-off Saturdays, but also continuing to have a series in the fall. I don't know how many weeks it will continue to be, is probably where we're at the moment.
As long as you get the same weather.
Yeah.
Yeah, just order that.
We're gonna do our best. I don't think we can replicate that, but
Probably not. That was pretty amazing. Anybody else have any questions for Brad before we hear from Julie?
I'll simply say, like, if you are considering doing something in the winter, I might recommend, if you haven't already experienced it, go check out what Montreal does during the Festival of Lights that's coming up in 2 weeks. It's outdoor. They shut down streets in downtown Montreal, fire pits so that people can come out and, you know, try to stay warm while they're still enjoying all the vendors and festivities and other games and other things that they've got going on, as well as projecting art on the walls. I'm not saying we can do all these things. I think it's a moment of inspiration that we can use. But I hope that we can see more Meet Me on Main. I know that there was a suggestion at one point that we might see one per month and over maybe a 4-month period. It's just hard to see how well it did over that 4-week period, with so many people coming out, so many families enjoying it, not being diminished week after week after week. And then again, I think it was successful around the city, watching people still being able to move to and fro. I would love to see more of that. I'm not saying every weekend, but I think it would be great to see that be a thing for us. So appreciate it, because it was such a success. And as far as the space is concerned, we talked a bit about this before, recognizing the fact that you definitely have those constraints, and I hope that we find a solution somewhere, whether it's in a different type of partnership with the schools or something else. But because I'd love to see us have some sort of community space that allows for multi-generational, that encompasses our senior programs and the youth programs and the camps and everything else, in a hub of, you know, Parks and Rec activity. So, but that is not going to be this year, but some point.
Anybody else? Nope. Okay. All right, Julie, take it away.
Great. Let's talk about what's going on with the 55 plus community. So our 3 biggest luncheons of the year, which are senior picnic in September, which we host at Maple Street Park, and our staff runs that. Our Thanksgiving and our Christmas meal, which we partner with Agewell and host at Holy Family. We served almost 100 seniors at each of those this year, and they're big successes. In addition to that, we have our community meals twice a month at Holy Family, partnered with Agewell. We usually see 25 to 45 people at those each month. And we try to do, like, sometimes they're just lunches, but sometimes we do have special things. Like this past Monday, the ADL boys basketball team came and served, which was really great. And I think it was beneficial for both sides. And to get some intergenerational programming was really great. I've built strong partnerships with the program coordinators at the Cathedral Square senior housing facilities. We've collaborated a lot on performances, so they'll provide us space and we pay for the performer, and then they open it up to the community. It's a great way to get people who don't necessarily leave their senior housing communities to have people from outside to come in, which has been really, really great. And I've also partnered with them to start indoor walking at the fairgrounds. They had a contact with Nordic Soccer, and so we do it twice a week, November through April. We see like 20 to 30 people each day, each session, which has been a great way to stay active, especially this past winter, because it's been so cold. And And then kind of in that same vein, I started a 55 plus hiking club this past spring, and it continued to grow through the fall. I think there's 96 people on my email list now. And some of them, the brave ones, have continued through the winter, and they go on snowshoeing adventures. And it's all volunteer led, so I have about 3 like really consistent leaders who will suggest a hike, and then I'll send it out to the group, and people will meet at Maple Street Park and carpool, and it's been really great. It's been a great way to bring in like the younger end of the 55 plus, because you know, bingo's been probably the average age is like 85, so trying to get those younger seniors to be involved, and that's been a great way. Looking ahead, obviously senior center reopening, hoping to do a big grand reopening for that, and with that will come the opportunity for a lot of new programming as well, just having that space. I have a growing list of volunteers that want to help once the senior center is reopened, so I'm just hoping to continue to add to that, because the more manpower we have when that reopens, the better. And looking ahead to the summer, we're going to do a senior swim night at Maple Street Pool, where we close down the pool to just the seniors. We'll do food and music and all that fun stuff. And there's a horse barn in Jericho that we're partnering with for a few summer camps as well, but they're going to do a free, like, come meet the horses, groom the horses, learn about horses for seniors once a month, which I think will be a unique opportunity and a great way to integrate something different. And since I've done this, written this, there's also been a few other things that have come up. So we have Celtic dancers coming next month to do a performance for St. Patrick's Day. And I'm working with the EHS student government. They're going to do a Sweethearts Ball, so they invite seniors to the high school for dinner and a dance, and that will be at the end of March. So yeah, I feel like programming continues to steadily grow in numbers, and I feel like once the senior center reopens, it's just going to continue to grow, because to have a home base and somewhere that people know and they're comfortable going is going to make a big difference, I believe. So, yeah.
Thanks, Julie.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody got any questions for Julie?
Thank you.
I just wanted to say, like, when the senior center, when they talked about closing the senior center and oh no, what was going to happen to the seniors and what was going to become of the programming, and then to hear all of that, like, it is flourishing.
Yeah.
It is amazing, and they are being afforded all sorts of opportunities, and that is just astounding. And yes, we acknowledge that the space hasn't been there, and the parish hall has been a great resource, and it'll be fantastic once this is, I mean, we're coming into the home stretch of this. Yeah. But to sit here and hear all of these opportunities and all of these different programs and everything that's happening, and just to hear it all is just amazing. Mm-hmm. And it's just absolutely flourishing, and so kudos to all of you.
Thanks. Mm-hmm. I mean, I haven't known anything different since I started. We haven't had so, but I think
here it was going to be the end of the program.
Oh, it was so different.
And now it's just beyond.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it was a good way to challenge me, and I've made a lot of community connections outside of the senior center because of it. And so now I have those resources moving into when we do have space, which will be great.
It's so
great, and you can have an intergenerational thing because the teens are upstairs.
I will echo exactly what he said. I remember last year going with Elaine over to Wickham Woods, and one of the things we heard was the fact that they did not feel or experience a relationship with our Parks and Rec, which we knew the senior center and those programs were valued. And the fact that you've got this relationship and you're building on that relationship is wonderful. So I'm glad, because it really did sound like from those residents at the time, they wanted to be a part of our community.
I just brought the Girl Scouts there on Sunday to Wickham Woods, so.
That's
great.
Awesome. That's awesome.
But again, it's like nice to have they open up those spaces to us and to the community. And so we can provide that programming for them, and they provide space for us. So it's really a mutually beneficial.
I'm also looking forward to that space being opened up because, as you put it, as a younger senior, I look forward to having someplace I can.
I was gonna take your spot. I was gonna take your spot at the horse petting thing. Just gonna grab your name tag from your wife.
But thank you so much, because again, and Brad, you as well, because look, anytime I talk about this community, about why this place is so great, EGRP is definitely in that discussion. And when you watch what happened at Meet Me on Main and programs like this, it always reminds me that the two most vibrant audiences for our programs tend to be the families and youth, along with seniors. And this community has done its utmost to try to take care of all those. And I have a lot of pride in the work that you guys are doing. So thank you so much for that. Thanks for coming out today too.
Anybody else? All right, I'm gonna echo that and say also, I love bingo. I'm not 55 and up yet, but I guess I can go with some of my fellow counselors as their. Okay, all right. I was just gonna be their +1, but I look forward to the senior center reopening as well, and coming over for some bingo, so I'll be over. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Very much.
Guys, enjoy the rest of your night.
Or feel free to stay.
All right, 6E, discussion and consideration of the Pearl Street additional pedestrian crossing.
Okay, so I'm just gonna try to share my screen over here. There we go.
Things cleared out considerably.
So I'm Chris Ewan, the Community Development Director, and I am really happy to be joined by Eliana Fox from Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission to talk a little bit about the Pearl Street Pedestrian Crossing Scoping Study. This is a UPWP project, so it's the planning for this is federally funded and is done through the the Regional Planning Commission, and we have Hoyle, Tanner, and Associates as the consulting team helping with this as well. So the background behind why we thought this was necessary is this. Between West Street Extension and the CVE, there's a half-mile gap where there's currently no pedestrian crossing, no official pedestrian crossing available. That's about a 10-minute walk. In 2012, there was a study done by the city engineer, and at the time, the recommendation was not to put in a crosswalk, and that's the conclusion was that the criteria for installing a crosswalk had not been met. So instead, this sign was put up that says there are potentially pedestrians in the next 1,500 feet. I think the conditions, land use, and the policy context may have changed over time, and I figure it was time to revisit this issue. Also, there are bus stops on both sides of the streets, and as a previous transit planner, that's one of my big focuses in that job was to make sure that people could get to the service that municipalities were already paying for. And you have to cross the street at some point to get to service on the other side. So this corridor is also subject to densification and further development through the Connect the Junction transit-oriented development plan, and we've heard repeated community requests for safer crossings. So I'll pass the time now to Eliana to talk about a scope.
Hi, thank you for the time and the opportunity. So yeah, just a quick overview of sort of the timeline and the scope of work that we have the team working on. So this project started late summer, around August, and after we got started around fall, we did a lot of background work, collecting traffic and pedestrian data. The engineering team went out into the field and did some site observations and measurements. We also completed an online survey. You may have seen the really cool lawn signs posted in the project area between like December and January, and Chris will say more about that later. So that's sort of everything we've done to this point, and now we're taking all of that information, and the consultant team is evaluating the data and starting to design potential crosswalk options for us. And so, yeah, that's the timeline as we have it right now. We hope to present those alternatives on March 12th at the Walk Bike Committee standing meeting. So I know you all have a lot of meetings, but I think if you're able to join us for that, that would be a great opportunity to see what this crosswalk is imagined to look like, or potential crosswalk. And then we hope to have this wrapped up later this spring, certainly by June 30th at the latest. So just some initial observations. This is some highlights of the pedestrian counts we did. So we had cameras out for like 5 days, and we processed 3 days of data, 2 weekdays and 1 weekend. I was really surprised to see that on the Thursday we collected, we did have 14 crossings in 1 hour. You can see it that 8:30 to 9:30 a.m. I went and looked at the video, and you can see a huge cluster of folks crossing at that time. It's quite surprising. And then, yeah, Thursday, I don't know if anyone remembers Halloween, but Friday. Halloween was extremely cold and rainy, so that certainly had an impact on the number of pedestrians that were out and crossing on that day. So with the highest rate being 2 per hour. Just a little bit of background on safety and crashes in the area. So in 2024, there was a pedestrian injury crash just east of the area that we're looking at as part of the background review that we've done for this project. We did get the police report for that, and the officer did note that there was not a crossing at this particular location where the pedestrian was hit. Beyond that, there are other vehicular crashes in the area, not too many, a couple of injuries, but mostly just property damage crashes. Do you want to talk about this one, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I guess I can. So yeah, as part of this, you can see here, this is an example of what that video showed. During those 5 days, we saw situations where folks were clearly having trouble getting across with a long stream of cars, and you'll see in a little bit, it's like why these folks were trying to get across, and it is you'll see in a few seconds here. It's coming to get the bus. So it is just kind of a case in point that there is clearly an unmet need for an improved crossing somewhere over here.
Oh, yep. So as I mentioned, we put out a public survey. The way we advertised this was through having these lawn signs just hung up in the project area. And yep, got 42 responses in that month. So feel pretty good about that.
Right. I guess we don't. These are just a sample of some of the questions that we had asked and some of the answers that we received. But it's interesting to note that out of the folks who answered, Wiley's Court did stand out as the most requested location to cross. We asked why people were looking to cross over here. Many people were just out for a walk, but also it's easier to forget that the businesses over here and the people working there and the people that are shopping there are users of the street as well. Some people are also trying to get to the Essex dog park. Yeah, some of the concerns that people exhibited with this area is speeding traffic and not being able to find a safe gap in traffic. So yeah, our next steps over here is just consultant is continuing to review the data and developing the conceptual alternatives, and we plan on hosting the alternatives meeting, public meeting on March 12th at the Bike Walk Advisory Committee standing meeting. But yeah, right now is a good time to get any early feedback from the City Council, and we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Does anybody have any questions for Chris?
Observation. First of all, thank you so much for doing this, because over the years, this has been one of the most frequent requests I've had from residents who've come to, elected officials asking for help. So thank you for taking this on. I just want to note the survey response about why people cross the street, and a fairly decent number of people said it was to get to the dog park. And I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that the way they're getting to the dog park is they're crossing the street and then they're going behind Wendy's, I think, and they're going onto Roscoe Court, crossing the tracks, and there's a bunch of informal crossings that lead to West Street directly behind Pearl Street. And I don't think they're walking down to West Street Extension, going down the extension and turning back on West Street. So I know that that's not part of the scope of this, but
Little path, right, like directly across from Champlain Valley Equipment that leads you right into the park.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that
It's on the
That's-
capital committee list.
oh, got it. Good. Okay, because it's just they're crossing train tracks and in some cases, and so it's scary. But I just wanted to point that out, and I've definitely used that path in my time here too. So it's definitely a well-traveled path.
My question comes down to what that path will look like, so I will wait to see what the presentation kind of looks like coming up on the 12th. But no, I think I'm absolutely in support of putting a crosswalk in there. It's just a matter of what does that look like? Is it the kind of thing that we were talking about, on the other side of West Street Extension potential, or is it just a flashing light kind of crosswalk, that kind of thing? Not that I'm opposed to either. It's just a matter of, I'd like to understand that, so I'll wait for that meeting. But I think we might, as a council, we might want to talk about whether or not we want to attend that particular meeting, because obviously there's implications there if we do. I think based on the nature of what this means about putting a crosswalk across Pearl Street, it'll have enough impact that it might deserve larger attention. And if we were all there, then it would have that attention for the community, not just for us. So anyway, anybody else?
Anybody else?
Brian?
And the goal here is to shoot for one crosswalk in this area of Pearl Street, because I can think of several places that would be useful if we had infinite time and money.
So the consultant team is scoped in their scope of work to look at up to 2 locations and have 2 different designs per location. That doesn't necessarily mean we're going to recommend putting in 2 crosswalks. Sometimes that can lead to a sort of fatigue with drivers where they start to ignore things when they're having to just stop so frequently. So we're certainly looking at multiple locations. And I think it'll be up to you all at the city to decide whether or not multiple get implemented. And we will have to see what the engineers think about that too, depending on the conditions.
Fair enough. And you said that injury crash was east of the target area? Like, how far are you? Like, east of the CVE even?
Right.
It was really close.
It was in the CVE entryway.
Yeah.
By the time everybody came to
105 Pearl
rest.
Street.
Yeah, the report did not clearly say where it was, but it was somewhere in front of the CVE property.
I was there. It was right by the park bench at CBE entrance. There were some external factors involved in that, but it's irrelevant, I think. Still happened.
Great, thank you.
Are there any questions from the public? I'm gonna look online first. And then come back to the room.
In the room.
Okay, I'm not seeing,
But I
Beat's
don't
here,
believe-
but
Yeah.
she's listening.
all right, I don't have any questions. I'll just say that was probably me jumping in the middle of 2 lanes of traffic, because I do it all the time, unfortunately. So, I'll welcome the crosswalk and use it. Thank you. All right, I don't have anything. You guys are good for that. Thank you.
Council potential participation for that upcoming meeting on the 12th, if that's something we desired?
Can we take that offline?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't see why not. I just want to make sure that if we wanted to do that, I wanted to check in because
Yeah, I mean, everyone's free to attend any meeting, of course, as a public, but it's a public meeting, but, I think I can send around
in the room
Yep.
though.
Yep, I can send around an email to folks as to whether they're planning on attending or not and gauge that. We can talk about that.
There is no motion.
This one is just a heads up, this is happening.
Oh, motions for the next one.
It will come back to you.
Yeah. All right, well, slide right into 6F then, which is the discussion and consideration of the Park Street bike lane. Thank you.
All right, so, so the County Development Department has been working on a proposal for some changes to Park Street, just south of the Five Corners. This is between Railroad Street and River Street. So this came up because there is a big gap. I mean, there's a significant gap in the bicycle bike lane network in the city, right here, in terms of the north-south connection. North of here, there is the Crescent Connector, Railroad Street, which has on-street bike lanes. North of that, there's a shared use path beside the train tracks that then gets you pretty close to the high school, and Old Colchester Road is relatively low traffic, and then you get to the tree farm. Going to the south, bike lanes start after River Street, and then actually once you get over the river, there is a shared use path that takes you all the way to Taft Corners. The final connection into Taft Corners is actually going to be, I think, opening this coming year with the residential development over there. So I mean, that's an exciting new connection that could be useful for a lot of folks. This section that we're talking about looks like this right now. I mean, you should all be familiar with it, but it's also an area of traffic safety concern. There have been fatalities here involving, I believe pedestrians have been involved in some of these crashes. It's just a deficiency in terms of complete streets in the city. So, making some change to this section of Park Street has been suggested by several plans. Most recently, the Connect the Junction plan said in the short term to stripe a bike lane in this area, and then in the long term to have create a separated either a shared use path or separated bike lane, and then a separated sidewalk beside that. But this is kind of a low hanging fruit that is suggested as a plan action. The Bike and Pedestrian Plan of 2015 also had this project in mind, and in the 2024 Community Vision and Strategic Action Plan, there were calls for better bike connectivity, and we actually have this as a department's action item in that's we were to look at. So we split this area into 4 zones over here because they all have slightly different attributes. Zone A actually looks a little bit different now because of changes associated with the crescent connector. The angled parking on the east side, which is the top over here, is no longer there. It's now a turn lane and a 4-foot shoulder beside that. The south side is still, the west side is still the same. So the bottom still has the angled parking there. The rest of the street pretty much looks the same. So we do not propose any changes to Zone A because of the recent reconfiguration with Crescent Connector. We do suggest that if any changes are made to the other zones, that the northbound 4-foot shoulder just get some bike symbols stenciled into there. And in the southbound direction, just to make this connection, you'd probably put in some what we call sharrows, which are shared lane markings, just to show people that is a known connection to make, but you'll have to be in the middle of the road for temporarily. So the focus here for this proposal is in zones B, C, and D. So what are the options? Well, alternative 0, we always look at how this compares with the existing conditions, doing nothing, no changes. Alternative 1 is to remove all on-street parking in this area to create the space for bike lanes. Alternative 2 is to remove some on-street parking, and actually what we mean here is removing one side of parking just to create enough space for the lanes. So, just an overview. This is what the current conditions in each zone is like. The driving lanes are actually incredibly wide over here. If you consider the parking as being 8 foot in width, which is a typical width of on-street parking lanes, that leaves actually 14 feet of space for each direction of traffic. An interstate highway lane is 12 feet, so it's more than necessary, and VTrans generally recommends now 11 feet. This is what it looks like from overhead, parking on both sides. That was Zone C, and then Zone D, there are some turn lanes in there. There's one side of parking. So those are 11-foot lanes. I think it's a 12-foot drive lane going north. So alternative 1, what would that look like? That would transform this space by adding 7-foot bike lanes with a 4-foot buffer on each side. The buffer would sometimes disappear where there's not enough space, and the lanes would narrow a little bit, but this is ample and very wide, I would say. This actually leaves room for future improvements, like putting up flexi posts or some kind of physical protection in the future. I don't think that is something that is contemplated right now. There would be a lot of operational considerations that would have to be thought through for that to be the case. But this is one of the options. In Zone C, that's what it would look like. It would just kind of taper to the start of the turn lanes. And Zone D, it's actually not that different from what it is right now, because it's 2 lanes going south and 1 going north, one of them being a turn lane. So what would alternative 2 be like? Alternative 2 would retain the parking on the west side. So that's the side with Rockies and Five Corners variety. It still leaves enough space to put in a 5-foot bike lane, which is for on-street bike lanes that's sufficient, and leaves a 2-foot buffer to prevent getting hit with the opening doors. It's not perfect. There's still some risk there, but it's decent. This is what it would generally look like for the rest of Zone C, and Zone D doesn't look any different. So the biggest impact, obviously, is on the on-street parking, and I think we really need to acknowledge that, and that this would be an important part of public engagement. If we are to explore this further. Right now, this is the number of spaces on-street spaces that are available in this area. In Zone B, which I think is the most heavily used, and it's definitely where the most businesses are, we've got 4 spaces on the east side and 3 on the west side, in front of Rockies, and then it's 9 and 5 in Zone C and 2 in Zone D. We took a look at the utilization of these spaces, and this is what we found. The data sources are 11 counts using Google Street View data. That the advantage of that is that it spans over many years. It tells you what month it is. It doesn't tell you what time the car went by, but it's during the day, and it went from it goes from 2008 to 2025. 11 counts. UVM engineering students, and actually I should acknowledge their important work in the early part of this project. We had actually tasked a few interns from the UVM engineering to come up with the very original alternatives, which have evolved into what you see today. They went out and did an in-person count in February 2025. So Zone B, the most business-intensive part, actually was also subject to a professional parking study done by Stantec in 2019, and there were 17 counts done between August and September in 2019. So, in terms of average utilization, this is what was found. There's between 0 and 1 spaces are in use on each side of Zone B at any given time on average. I mean, it ranges from 0 to 2. And actually, this is the more detailed analysis over here. For Zone B, important to note the maximum observed parking occupancy. So the peak of the peak that was observed was 2 cars on the west side and 2 cars on the east side over here. Also, it should be noted that the west side has a 1 hour assigned for a 1 hour limit. It's to encourage turnover and to make sure that people aren't taking up the most valuable spaces over there all day. Also of note for all the on-street parking over here is that overnight parking is prohibited between December and April. And that is, I think, particularly an interesting point for Zone C and D, which is mostly in front of residential uses. So if it's residential and you can't use it overnight anyway, then it's not that useful for residential uses.
So on that particular point, if I may ask, because there was an in-person study done in February during a time where there's a ban. I was already, like when you mentioned the timing of that in-person, I was already a little concerned because of the fact that with winter, it's going to impact one's desire or ability to park on a street anywhere. And so I'm a little, and I know you've got more data points here, so I don't want to hang up on one particular thing, but it does stand out for me that this one in-person study that was done at a time period when it's probably the most difficult or the most unlikely that someone would end up parking in those particular spaces. Versus as I'm a regular commuter along that particular run, I will say, especially during the busiest time of day, you know, if you're talking about down by the Pearl Street or Park Street Bev, you know, those spaces are usually full. I usually see the spots across the street at Riverside. You know, it kind of comes and goes. It depends. I would agree that down by the residences, it feels a little hit or miss from time to time. Kind of depends on if somebody's throwing a party or something, feels like. But these counts seem low in my experience in driving on that street. So again, seeing where that in person, my personal experience, it's just bringing me a little pause about this data.
Right. So the February count is during the day, and the parking on the street is allowed during the day. But it's just that's one data point, really.
Yeah.
There can be more data that can be collected here if it would make a difference in what decision is made in the end. But I think I'd like to just show you a little bit more about the 2019 parking study, because this was the professional one, and this is the study that was done by Stantec, and they chose to do 17 counts over 3 days, and they picked the 3 days to hit what they anticipated would be the potentially highest demand times. So they picked 2 Wednesdays, a Wednesday from 3 to 7 p.m., another Wednesday from 10 to 1 p.m. To coincide with just kind of peak office and municipal parking demand. So the first one was actually to coincide with the farmers market, and lastly, the count on the Friday was to coincide with the peak restaurant parking demands.
So to that point, can I, again, I apologize, but like the summer farmers market was down by Lincoln, is off Lincoln Street, not Park. The municipal building off Lincoln, not Park. So that's at the other end. And then as far as the restaurants, 2018, we're still talking about, there was a couple of restaurants that are no longer there that were there at that time. So that's fine. Again, I see the data, it just brings me this pause and question. That's why I'm mentioning it.
Yeah. So this was not focused specifically on this area. I mean, it just happened to have covered this stretch of road as well, I think, and it's just looking at parking demand overall.
Right, Christy, like it looks to me like the consultant said, hey, what are your busiest times and dates? And then said, now let's go look at this area that we're studying, right? They didn't pick these times and dates because they thought the farmer's market specifically affected this area, but it affected the city. This is a high volume time, let's measure now.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Was this the quadrant study?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. So, yeah, I mean, I think this the parking data I think is important, and you know, it's the data that we have is definitely imperfect, and it's not super complete, but I mean, it is a starting point at you know, seeing the type of utilization that we see on average, which may differ from, you know, the peak of the peak times. But yeah, you know, if the city council is interested in having us proceed in exploring this further, you know, these are the next steps that I think we would take. I definitely think there needs to be more public engagement. We do plan on doing direct outreach to the businesses and the property owners there. It's not that many, but it you know, this affects them a lot. And we'd have them, you know, we would offer them a survey and an open, you know, opportunity to provide their comments on what their needs are and, you know, how they think they would be impacted. There would also be a public meeting, an alternatives presentation, kind of like what we're proposing for Pearl Street, but for Park Streets. I think that would be able to make that happen in April. And because this involves changes in striping only, there is no changes to the curbs and any physical changes to the pavements. This is something that's potentially could be implemented relatively quickly with a relatively low budget. There would need to be a little bit more exploration into that, but the thought is that this would make sense to be implemented and timed with the annual restriping of these streets. Some stripes would be removed and sandblasted, but the painting would work efficiently. So that's that would take us to a summer of 2026. If everything works as intended here, but I think there's still a lot to consider over here in the meantime.
Are there any plans in the work for any sort of lighting site improvement? The last presentation mentioned a pedestrian accident that occurred east of the target site of the crosswalks, and in doing some research here and having lived through some of this, there have been 4 significant pedestrian accidents in this area in the last 5 years, including a fatality. And so I'm wondering if there's any thought into this area that includes improved lighting or improved signage or any way to improve the pedestrian experience around what is, I guess, probably still our densest population in Riverside in the city. And I don't know if this is, I mean, I get that this is a project, but I don't know if this is the right project for the right time when we're experiencing a different anomaly in that area. And I think it's just worth pointing out. And maybe, maybe having a 5-foot bike lane as you come out will give them some sort of buffer, but it's just a curiosity. It also, I'm curious, as we so often hear about how parking is a problem around here, and we're considering eliminating parking spaces regardless of how much they're currently used. We did just potentially add 1,100 new housing units in the area, and that's only going to stand to draw more people. And there's new restaurants that have opened up over here and new experiences, and it just seems a little counterintuitive to me to be removing more parking spaces when we already struggle.
Can I, before you answer, if I may, just to lay off that, because I think it goes into this as well. Understanding and hearing and recognizing the concern, I would also say, and to the way I've been feeling about this generally, I want to get to a point where we have a multimodal system that allows us to not only have our residents get to and fro easily within the city, but connect us to the adjoining communities, to the multimodal path out of Williston, the multimodal path out of the town, and the multimodal path out of Colchester. Even with more housing coming into this area, I think there is the potential for what you say may be true, where there's going to be more vehicles, but at the same time, I also foresee the possibility that there's also more opportunity for more people to want to use those paths to get to these other places in the adjoining communities.
Stated in the beginning, this is a bridge to eventually having a multimodal path in that area.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm not discounting that. I'm just happening to say we're talking about eliminating parking spaces in an area that already has an unusually high vehicle pedestrian accident rate. And so I don't know if our focus in that area is the immediate need is a bike lane or more lighting, safety, street redesign, like we experienced on Pearl Street a number of years ago, when now there's all these beautiful lamps that come through. something to improve visibility. And I get that this is low impact, low dollars. I'm just talking out loud, right?
No, I'll give you a chance to respond.
Chris?
So lighting and general improvements to safety improvements to the streets are, I mean, I guess lighting is not a part of the scope. It is not something that we're considering. This part is currently does have lighting. It is not perfect, and I think there is always room for improvements in that area. In terms of safety impacts, I think this stretch of Park Street is subject, has been a subject to one of Corporal Gregg's reports on speeding and on traffic calming, and the recommendation there was that something should be done over here. I mean, this is an area of safety concern. One of the changes to the road in the toolkit, the traffic calming toolkit, is narrowing lanes and adding features like bike lanes. It might not seem like it is focused on pedestrian safety, but the changes in how these lanes are configured does have a known impact on driver behavior. And I would also stress that the long-term plans suggested by Connect the Junction does not suggest putting maintaining two sides of parking here, even for, even as you put in a shared use path. There are limits to the amount of right-of-way width that's available here. And when you're having to, pick between through traffic, parking, multimodal access, and street trees, you just can't have all of everything everywhere. I mean, there are some tough trade-offs that have to be made. But I can certainly see, how it's not necessarily a straightforward choice over here.
Any other questions for Chris?
I really like this plan. Just, I mean, for both cyclist safety and because I'm aware that narrowing lanes slows down traffic and stuff. So I agree it's not as obvious. I had a very specific question. Can you bring the proposal back up?
Sure. Which part of it?
Where you're talking about, I think you called it Proposal 2, when you were talking about removing part of the parking in the area around Rockies.
Sure.
Wait, actually, that's the picture I want to see.
You want this one?
No, there was an overhead. There was like a drone picture from above Rockies.
This is above Rockies.
Well, okay. So I mean, I can work with this for my question. This alternative 2 seems to remove the spots on the east side of the east side of Park Street and not the west side.
That's correct.
Yep. Now, the reason why I wanted to have the overhead picture of Rockies is I know that when I use those spots in front of Rockies, it's to go get a creamy at Rockies, right? Now, the beauty of Rockies is, as you can kind of see in the bottom of that slide, is they have their own parking. They have off-street parking. Whereas there's less. Whereas there's less parking at Park Street Tavern. So, I mean, did you consider? Is there a reason why we removed them on the west side and not the east side? Does it matter? Is that would that help mitigate some folks' concerns about taking away parking from the businesses in that area?
So, there is certainly a possibility to pick the other side. We had to simplify, what were the options that we were thinking through over here, and we thought that the south side would be considered more important because of there must have been some history behind why it got the 1 hour parking limit. I mean that's usually indicative of a desire for having higher turnover there.
Well, I mean, I imagine that Marcus alluded to it too, in that in February you don't need a creamy, but there's often turnover required at Rockies and for both ice cream and pizza on beautiful summer days.
Don't forget there's a liquor store there.
Well,
Yeah, right.
that's true too. I mean,
Doesn't matter what time of year.
True. Maybe I'm just speaking of my preferences here. So, but yeah, interesting. I just didn't know if there was a. We picked this for a reason that I hadn't seen, that I didn't understand. So.
Right.
Cool,
Yeah.
thank you.
We should also note that in either ways, if you remove parking from one side, it is an inconvenience for people driving in one direction, right? If you're going north, and even if you're trying to go to Rockies, some people would pull over to those spots and cross the street. Although crossing the street there, if there's no if they aren't crossing where there's an available crosswalk, it's also a risk that's the design is creating. But there is off-street parking I think for a lot of these spaces, and when you observe parking demand over there, it's some of it is going to be because it is currently a little bit more convenient to be on the street than to be off-street.
There are three spots on the side of the liquor store for its parking, and then a number of spaces in the back. But there's a fence there that's for associates and orthodontics. So I actually believe that Park Place has more off-street parking by the time you actually figure it out.
We only look at one side of the building. Right?
Yeah, there's parking on that other side of the building. But nonetheless, and then this is all fine and dandy, and I think we're really arguing over semantics at this point. My only thought would say, and I'll be interested to see how this comes through, is if the people pull into Rockies, open the door, jump out, run in and grab their handle and come back out and jump in their car without looking, and they pull into the bike lane and whiz bang, there's someone on a bike there.
Well, that's better than the bike lane, then they know there's bikes there.
But on the same side, that space also gives the people, because what I've seen is people come out from that store and they step between a car and they step out into traffic and there's a car there. So having a bike lane there gives them a buffer to be able to get out and see, because human nature is not to walk to the crosswalk because that's a longer walk. So, but yeah.
Go ahead, Elaine.
Just one more question. Is there an opportunity to choose? First of all, are you asking us to make a choice today? And second of all, what if you wanted to do maybe alternative 2 for zone B, but then alternative 1 for everything else? Like, can you choose based on each zone, or are you looking for a choice that is the same for the entire set of zones?
You can choose based on each zone, and we do not need. We're not at a point where we're asking for any endorsing any alternative right now.
Okay. It does seem like there should definitely be parking spots in front of Rockies, but the rest, with the data you showed us, seems to show far less usage, and it wouldn't be quite so bad if there weren't spots there and there were more accessible bike lanes.
I think, yeah, it's certainly a possibility to mix and match. By maintaining parking on one side a little bit further south, it does create space for spillover for overflow if those 3 spaces in front of Rockies is insufficient.
Yeah.
So what there is a motion in the packet. So there is gonna be public engagement, as Chris said. So is there anybody that would like to? Actually, before you do that, I'll open it up to public comment.
Nobody here.
All right, not seeing any, so, okay, bringing it back for the motion.
Page 84.
I move that the city council support proceeding with the Park Street Complete Street Improvements Project and direct staff to advance public engagement and further design development as proposed.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sorry, go ahead.
I think that was unanimous. It wasn't?
No.
Oh,
I will.
okay. Okay, you said nay? All right. Okay, so because we're online, we have to go through a roll call. So Elaine,
Aye.
Marcus,
Nay.
Tim,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
and I'm an aye, so 4-1. Thank you, Chris. We look forward to seeing the results of the public engagement. And don't go anywhere because you're next up for 6G, discussion and consideration of the LDC schedule adjustments, fee schedule adjustments.
All right. So, yeah, so the Community Development Department has been reviewing the development fee schedule and making sure that it's aligned with the cost of administering these services and kind of aligned with what other municipalities are charging for similar services. We drafted some changes, and most of them are not that significant, but the biggest change that we're proposing is actually in the excavation permit fees. So this was obviously done, proposed in consultation and together with the Public Works Department and the city engineer. We had reviewed what Burlington, Williston, Colchester, South Burlington, and Winooski were all charging whenever people were proposing to dig up the road. And we were charging by far the least. The fee structure was $30 for what we call a minor excavation. That's when you don't mess with the pavement, but you're in the right of way. We just basically that's when we just have to pay attention to those and make sure nothing is broken. And $100 for a major excavation. So what is proposed here is an $85 base permit fee and a $10 per square foot fee for excavations into the roadway pavement and into the sidewalk or shared use paths. The per square foot fee would not apply to excavations that are associated with the work that's already going through development, like our development approval process, where we charge back the actual cost of engineering review. So it would be for everything else that's like sometimes sewer work is done because somebody has issues with their existing sewer connections. Sometimes for utility connections, gas connections, things like that. I also propose a $100 after the fact administrative fee for work that we find to be started without a permit. Yeah, I mean all of what's proposed here, I think, gets us closer to, but still actually remains below the regional median. And I think the intention of that is just to not have too crazy of a sticker shock over here and a change from the existing practices that I think our existing contractors may be used to. Another change that's formalized over here is about pavement repair. The fee schedule currently says if a contractor makes a cut that's below 100 square feet, the Public Works Department will perform the repair and then charge them back for the cost of doing so. In reality, in recent years, they have not been charging that back. Given the proposed increases in the fees, we're suggesting that that be formalized and we no longer charge. I put that mention of charging back for the 100 square foot repairs in this fee schedule. There is some wording put into there to say that if the job is particularly complicated and they can't do it with in-house equipment and their existing resources, that they'll still have to pay for that. So that's the gist of the changes as proposed, and I welcome any questions.
Chris, I have a quick question. I might have missed it, but you pull out the after the fact for the excavation. Is there an after the fact for any other permit like zoning? Like if I built an ADU, there is, okay.
Yes,
Is
it's
it
a
usually
double,
just
it would be double for those ones.
That's what I thought. Okay. I just didn't see it, but I'm flipping through quickly. So, any questions for Chris?
Chris, what do you anticipate the additional revenue will be on an average year to the city for this? This isn't going to be a substantial. I know Amber's all in favor of like fees and additional revenue, so I know we're doing this to make Amber happy.
I think it's just Amber.
Good luck with that.
I am curious whether you see this to be a substantial change.
This is okay. So I'm just trying to remember roughly how many of these excavation permits we get every year. If I remember correctly, we have like 30 to 50 of these excavation permits every year.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of them, if they hit the square foot fee, that would it would raise some money. It's not going to be a ton.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll just add to that in terms of thinking about increased revenue and fees. It's not really appropriate to look at fees as an increased revenue source.
Right.
It's appropriate to look at fees to make sure that what a particular individual is asking the city to do is matching our level of effort, so those costs aren't passed on to the whole, if that makes sense.
No, yeah.
So that's really the alignment, and we want to make sure that we're just not so far out of whack of the other municipalities in comparison to us. So, yeah.
Any other questions for Chris?
Yeah, it seems like one of the goals here, and which is to become more in line with our surrounding municipalities in terms of these fees. Is it possible to include an inflation adjustment or something in this so that we don't, catch halfway up and then keep falling behind as they're increased around us?
Well, there is one municipality that actually does that right now, and that's Burlington, and they have to issue they issue a news release about their new fees every year. I don't really think it's necessary because I think I think we should be reviewing the fee schedule as a whole every year, every 2 years. It's also nice to have round numbers.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Marcus, Tim?
I'm really happy to be done with the $30 excavation.
No, I'm ready to make a motion, Amber, unless you have
Go
something.
ahead. Yep.
I will move the City Council adopt the amendments to the development fee schedule as presented effective February 12th, 2026.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that's unanimous. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we are moving on to consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, another unanimous. Council member comments and city manager report. Regina?
I don't have any.
It's fine.
I maybe should. We're working on the budget. We're getting the public engagement out on that. Reed is coming to Public Works Facility on Friday to take a tour. So that will be helpful. Once we get past the next couple of weeks, we will set up tours, public tours for Public Works as well.
Can we, publish photos, videos, something of the
Yeah.
facility as well online?
We'll be stepping up all of that.
I-
Maybe CCTV could come to one of the tours.
Yeah.
That would be really,
Yep.
people would be able to see it.
What you doing Friday, Logan?
We'll do the budget presentation, Regina, live from DPW. Yeah. I'm just gonna quickly follow up on that and then I'll open it up to everybody else because you mentioned the engagement, the budget engagement. So we have, to my knowledge, 2 this week, 1 tomorrow, which is 12 to 1 at 2 Lincoln, and 1 Saturday from 12 to 1 at formerly known as Max Market, now Essex Junction Market. So please come out to those and engage the council on budget discussions.
I'll just end up talking to myself the whole time.
More than he normally does. Anybody else?
I will just simply add in as a reminder, again, go to the city website, essexjunction.org. You can see the entirety of our engagement schedule for the budget there. So, look, we're doing more this year than we have in the past, and I'm grateful to be a part of this with everybody else. Because we want to hear from you, we want to engage with you, we want to talk to you about these things, so please say hi at least, but feel free to ask questions.
Anybody else?
Nothing from me.
All right, I will entertain a motion to adjourn then. All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you, Amber.